The last video I made was about writing advice and like how to use it properly. In it, I talked about a piece of advice that I personally use that I kind of made up. Not to say that it's a unique idea, but I haven't heard it from anywhere before. It's about how you bring characters back to life after you've killed them. More specifically, it's about how you shouldn't bring back people from the dead, but if you're gonna do it right. The best way to start is to talk about like what is good about killing a character in your story in general. Well, for one thing, it raises the stakes of your story. It gives the audience a feeling that something bad could happen at any moment, and it makes them feel more tense when their favorite character is going through something really dangerous, because now they know that there is potential that that character will never make it out of that situation. Which in turn, when the character does make it out alive, it just makes it all more satisfying and impressive, because you're now glad that they made it, and it feels really impressive. But it also helps give a sense of importance to the story as well. And like, I'm not so much talking about the stakes of how difficult it's going to be to get through the story, but just how dedicated the characters are to the story, or how not dedicated to them they are. In reality, killing characters opens a lot of opportunity for a lot of other characters to start to think about things more and start to develop a bit. Now, you don't want to go too crazy into that, because if you make characters solely just for the sake of killing them to inspire other characters, then that's a term called fridging. It's not a very good idea. Because now you're taking a character that doesn't have a lot of pre-established engagement and you're just killing them off. Like, why do I care about your girlfriend who just died and I didn't know her? She's not real. You're not even real, but at least the writer has done a good job of making you seem real, you know? But when you take a character that has been well established and fairly nuanced, and maybe even gets to have a full character arc before they die, and like then you kill them, then that can open up opportunities throughout the rest of the story for characters to have to deal with an extra barrier, or maybe for some characters free up some space, you know, for them to be able to have an easier time achieving their goals. Plenty of times in stories you'll see like the bad guy get killed, and then the heroes no longer have to worry about them and can progress further to whatever they were intending to do. And it can make for a really powerful moment in the story, maybe something that really dives deep into what the theme of the story is. And these moments can often become some of the most memorable moments of the series, because really at the end of the day, stories are a lot of good moments and bad moments, but if they aren't equal sometimes, then it can be a little underwhelming. If you just have a show that's just filled with sad moments, then people are just going to feel depressed and they might not want to keep watching, right? Or they might have a hard time connecting with the characters or connecting with the story, because it seems completely discombobulated from how their own lives are, or how they feel of the world or whatnot. But if you only have the good moments, then there's no narrative tension. There's nothing to really keep the audience going and to keep them wanting more. So they might enjoy the good moments and then just like start to leave off. So they go hand in hand. Now, with that established, I want to talk about bringing them back and why it's a bad idea, unless you're specific about it. First, let's be like a little optimistic. Let's talk about some of the good things that can come out of bringing a character back to life. Sometimes it can bring the audience a great sensation of joy to see a character that they thought was gone just come back, and you thought they were dead but they're okay, right? And that can lead to a very, very emotional moment in its own right. And often when characters are resurrected like this, they're often better than ever. I think of like Gandalf in this situation. Sure, he died, but not only did he die and come back, but he came back 2 times better than he was before. And that leads to a lot of power, because it feels like that part of his life was a huge growing point, or part of his lack of life. And honestly, sometimes it just kind of feels good to bring a character back. It's good to see them back. You know, maybe you did a little loopsy, but like there are ways to make it well earned. And then there's my way of doing it. My way of bringing characters back, if I bring them back at all, which generally I don't. But my ways of bringing back characters is often the amount of bad or the amount of damage done by that death needs to be equal or lesser than when they come back. Let's say this is a fantasy story and you kill off a really beloved character. Now, you made an item that can bring them back to life, but they are forever disfigured in some sort of way, whether that's like emotionally or physically or what have you. I also wanted to mention that sometimes you can also get away with bringing back a character without doing some sort of weird disformity thing. If you can manage to keep the narrative tension rising with them coming back. Maybe some extra drama. Maybe they're now enemies with the heroes when before they were friends because of the way they died. Something that helps the narrative build in tension and the conflict become greater, so that we, the audience, are on the edge of our seats. That way, this change in them is a permanent change. Having this permanent change can allow you to make the death still seem impactful to the story. The biggest problem with trying to bring a character back from the dead is it feels like you're retconning the death, and it feels like you missed the character so much, and so you brought them back because you just much prefer having them there. But it's like, why did you kill them in the first place then? But having some sort of change, having some sort of difference in the status quo for that character, good or bad, is ultimately kind of what makes their death worth it in the story, if they're going to be there at the end of the story, right? I think my biggest message in this video is, if you're going to bring a character back, make sure that there's a sense of permanent change and permanent effect to the story because of that. I just personally prefer to err on the sadder side of that.